What is up, everyone? It's Quinn here, and in this video, I'm going to be going through my Week 16 top 15 defenses. I've already gone through the running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, and tight ends, so you guys can check those out if you haven't seen them already. But focusing on the defenses for this one, if you guys enjoy the video, just do me a huge favor and hit that like button. But let's just dive right into it. Starting off with my number one defense this week, it's going to be the Buffalo Bills. They're coming off pretty much a masterclass against the Cowboys. I think, heading into that, a lot of people would have thought, including myself, that was a really tough matchup. The Cowboys offense was rolling, and they pretty much, just locked them down. And not only are they coming off a great defensive performance, but they have a prime matchup here going up against the Chargers, who just got lit up by the Raiders defense. I think, in my opinion, they're the clear number one defense this week. You have the combination of one of the better defenses in the NFL going up against one of the worst offenses. Next up is going to be the New York Jets. Not a great game defensively out of them in Week 15, but I like the matchup here against the Commanders. This is a team that is prone to turn the ball over. They're also going to have sack opportunities, and overall, this Jets defense is just very impressive. Number three, we're going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. An overall solid defense, and I like the matchup here against the Raiders. I know offensively the Raiders looked great going up against the Chargers, but I really don't think that's something that's going to continue. I mean, just the week prior, they were completely shut out by the Vikings, so I think the Chiefs are going to have a nice spot here. Then at number four, going with the Broncos. Not coming off a great game, getting blown out by the Lions, but I mean, going from the Lions offense to this Patriots offense is just night and day. This Patriots offense is when you want to attack when you're playing defenses. I think the Broncos are in a good spot here. Another team that's kind of struggling defensively, but has one of the better matchups out there, the Green Bay Packers going up against the Panthers. Offensively, the Panthers have just been pretty much anemic. So even though this Packers defense has been struggling, I still think they'll be fine and will be a nice option here going up against the Panthers. Then we're going to have the Eagles. Definitely been a disappointing defense on the season, but kind of in a similar spot to some of the teams before them. They're going up against the Giants. Don't have a ton of confidence in this Giants offense. They had the one decent game against the Packers. Definitely kind of came back down to earth in Week 15. So even if this Eagles defense has been up and down, not coming off a terrible game against the Seahawks, I think this is a nice spot for them to kind of have a bounce back. Then we're going to go with the Cleveland Browns going up against the Texans. Obviously, not having CJ Stroud, which it seems like they're not going to, is a massive deal for this Texans offense. The Browns maybe would have slid in like the bottom of the top 15 if CJ Stroud was healthy. With no CJ Stroud, rolling Case Keenum out there, I think they're definitely like a mid-tier, top 12 defense. After the Browns, going to go with the team they played last week, the Bears. Since the trade deadline, this Bears defense has just done a complete 180. They went from one of the worst defenses in the NFL to one of the better options here over the second half of the season. Not a great matchup here against this Cardinals offense, but it's definitely not a unit I'm super scared of. So I like the Bears here as my number 8 team. Then going to go with the Colts going up against the Falcons offense that has kind of struggled. This Colts defense has also been very solid for fantasy, so a nice matchup there. Then I'm going to have the Bengals going up against the Steelers. Not overly confident in this Bengals defense, but I think the matchup is prime time here. You have no Kenny Pickett. Mitch Trubisky has now been benched for Mason Rudolph. This offense is just completely in shambles. I think you can capitalize on it here with the Bengals. Then I'm going to have the Falcons. Just talked about the Colts. Going to have the other side of that equation here. The Falcons defense going up against this Colts offense. I think Michael Pittman's health could definitely be a big factor here. He's definitely a focal point of the Colts offense, but this Falcons defense has been pretty solid on the season. I think just outside the top 10 is a fair spot. Then at number 12, not a defense that I'm super high on overall, like in general, the Washington Commanders, but I just really like the matchup here going up against the Jets. I think you could argue higher. If Zach Wilson does not clear concussion protocol, I would definitely bump the Commanders up top 10 because obviously Zach Wilson isn't anything crazy, especially this season, but the non-Zach Wilson quarterbacks have just been completely abysmal. So I think they definitely would be a huge riser if Zach Wilson doesn't play. This is assuming that Zach Wilson is in there at quarterback, so still a top 12 option for me. Then I'm going to be going with the Seahawks. Had a nice game defensively going up against the Eagles, and then they draw the Titans, who right now I would expect that Will Levis probably isn't going to play in that one. So I think they get a nice bump there without the Titans top quarterback. Then I'm going to have the Texans going up against the Browns. I think this matchup is pretty like mid-tier on both sides. Like I'd say the Texans maybe a slightly above average defense. The Browns, probably middle of the pack offensively. They've definitely been competent with Flacco at quarterback, but definitely not a unit I'm overly scared of. So, like a high end defensive two option. And then wrapping up my top 15 with the Steelers. Talked about the Bengals defense earlier on. I think no Jamar Chase, makes this a less scary matchup here against this Bengals offense. Steelers defense pretty much middle of the pack. So that's going to wrap it up for my top 15 defenses. Hopefully you have a solid streaming option this week, or just a defense that you've been holding on to, or maybe one that you stashed over the past few weeks. Any other fantasy questions, you can drop them down below. You can also do it, over the next few days. If we get injury updates, just let me know. Leave a new comment, and I will try to get back to you as soon as I can. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. Thank you all for stopping by, and I will see you in the next one.